basically don't eat, I guess, a lot like other people. You know, we don't have to have steak every night or all that. We're basically back the way we did, you know, way we were raised, because we like that food.
Yeah.
You have to watch what you eat according to your diet now, but you know, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
we eat normal. I mean,
Well, what about growing up? I mean, what are some of the things when you think about growing up? As, you know,
eating?
Yeah, you know, the things that you things that you didn't get when you did get was a big deal.
Well, Ken talks about the peanut butter and bread, like they used to have peanut butter sandwiches. I can't remember having peanut butter that much when I grew up, but when I married Kenneth, I mean, that was a normal thing. You got peanut butter sandwiches and had hamburgers, I think, and we didn't, you know, because I guess Dad wasn't working sometimes, but he did work in the mines. When he worked good, but like you said, we canned a lot of stuff, and we done, but we did a lot of just plain eating. I mean, I started cooking about 11 years old and could make biscuits and gravy and all that stuff. And, you know, when I went there, Kenneth's mother and Dad's house, we stayed there about 4 or 5 months when we first got married. They ate differently, you know, but like I said, even now, we have different, but I guess ice cream. We had ice cream at special occasions, you know. But you just didn't have that stuff every day, you know. When you could buy it, it kind of felt good, but like Ken said, we were on such a tight budget when we first got married till, you know, now it does feel pretty good to go down and buy a half-gallon ice cream. You can afford it, you know.
Pick what kind you want, you know. Just,
I mean, he don't buy half a gallon, he buys 2 now. So, you know.
I think growing up as a boy, one of the biggest treats I used to have is we used to, Jim Shelton, and you know, was my neighbors growing up. I grew up with them there, and I think of how his mom had a charge account down at Jimmy Stutzo's down at the beer joint. Had a charge account down there, not for beer, but I mean for grocery. There would be a charge account. And we would go down there and charge. He would go in and charge things, you know, get pop and 3 Musketeer bars, and we would get a 6-pack of pop and things like that. And I can remember taking those and eating them till we get sick, and knew he's going to get a beating when he got home over it. Because I remember all the time his mama whipping him over it. But we know the whipping was worth getting the candy. And we think about growing up, how and they'd send you to get a 6-pack of pop. It was a big thing. You'd go down to the sweet shop and get a 6-pack of pop, and how in life, when you think about stuff growing up that we sort of thought was something special, you know, and how now it just seems to be, we're so blessed, you know.
Well, it's like Kathy says sometimes, do y'all still have hamburgers on Saturday nights? When they were growing up, we had hamburgers and double colas. RC colas. And we would have that because that was a normal thing on Saturday nights. And most of the time it is still yet. We like hamburgers, and I mean, a lot of times I will do hamburgers. But she says hamburgers and chocolate fudge, you know. Yeah. They remember that, you know. You
remember those things along in your life. It's something how that stuff stands back out, and you get to thinking back on things. I know the kids jump on us because we're down to where we really only have one bush left when they were kids. Everything else we've gradually took out. And we got this one tree that's just absolutely in the way right there next to the porch. And every time we say something about cutting that thing down, they just
You don't move things. They don't want change.
Yeah, don't change it, you know.
And change that.
We talk about, how long have y'all lived in Warrior Mines? I can't remember anywhere else.
46 years.
In the one house.
In the one house, yeah. In the house, yeah.
We moved 9 times the first 5 years that we were married. And 3 of those times we lived in Warrior Mines.
How many times in Warrior Mines?
3 times, other than the last time
4
that
times.
we've lived. 4.
Well, we're actually 4.
Yeah. So 46 years at that place you're at, the location you're in now?
Yeah. I think Lynn was 2.5 months, and she's 54 in April.
Yeah, I'm 50. She's 54.
She was sick, and we lived in a little apartment across from a service station, and the doctor wanted us to move out of the upstairs apartment because it was too hot. And we moved up Warrior Mines where Dickie lives now, across from post office. We've lived there twice. And then we lived where
See, actually, Mom and Dad started housekeeping in the house that we live in right now. They rented 2 rooms of that house from a man named Bulger Mead. And they was there for a while, and then they moved over there where Dickie lives now, in that house.
And we lived there too.
I
told him that was funny.
And then they 2 houses in that coal camp up there. It was a 3-room house, and we finally outgrew it. It kept adding on, you know, and then we moved in a 4-room house. And Dad lived there as long as they stayed in Warrior.
Bonnie Evans. Tell me something about her. Do you remember her?
Bonnie, she was a Rutherford, her maiden name, and they would always come. Jeanette did her hair on Saturday night, didn't he? And her and her husband would come, and they'd stay hours, you know, after she got her hair fixed, you know, and they became friends of ours till they passed, you know.
Now, Bonnie, let's see, who owned the store?
Nathan Hill.
Nathan Hill owned the store. Was that the store right up next to you all? Who owned the store right up the street up where your mines? Remember the store where the post office is now?
Across from post.
D.V. Cole.
Yeah, one that was right across.
He was the man that built it.
Okay.
And ran it for years. He was mayor of War for through, I believe his last term ended in 48.
One of the gentlemen that ran the cameras in the theater there, in the War Theater, Jim Mullins is his name. He's on my Facebook and talk to him all the time. But he ran the cameras in the theater there, where we at the auditorium. He ran the cameras there.
He probably got me and Ken on camera.
I don't think y'all could sit upstairs.
Jim
Mullins.
No, not
Jim Mullins. He ran.
Yeah, the War Theater, was half black and half white.
He ran the cameras right there now where we have the auditorium where we brought Brother Holmes. He ran the cameras there.
You had a choice there. You could go upstairs or stay downstairs.
I remember the Grand.
Had a railing down it. You remember that railing that was down the middle of it?
Yeah. Yeah. I used to go to the Grand up there when I was a boy growing up. And what was her name that had that?
Bowley's.
Bob Bowling.
And she was so nice, had white hair. I mean, she had white hair. She was always so nice to me. And she would let me, and she'd let us, me and Rocky King, I'd be Tim Boyd, we'd go sometime, and sometimes she'd let us in for nothing. She'd let us in. That's when they first had come out with the Nestle's Crunch bar like that, and it had the full wrapper on them. And I remember we used to eat those things till we couldn't hardly stand it. Oh, Lord, I'd eat those. But I remember going to the theater like that growing up. Again, when we think about, all right, so Bonnie Evans, and what about Billy West?
Billy, she was a cousin, but she was closer than that, really. I mean, we were right across in her door, and there's only 16 years between me and Billy's age. She was 16 years old when I was born, and I was first grandchild on that side, you know, and she was always special to me, and she always looked out after me. I know I could go to the dime store. She had a job at White's 5 and Dime, and we'd go down there.
Where was it at?
It's downtown War, beside the drugstore, and we'd have a few pennies or something to buy something for Mom for Mother's Day, or for maybe a little Christmas gift or something, and she'd always help us pick out something, you know. And when I got saved, the Lord saved me. I had on clothes that she'd given me of Cheryl's. For years and years, I never did weigh over 122 pounds. I went from like 118 to 122, and she always looked out for us. You know, we were just like her children, really. And I tell you, then we were across the street in her home.
Right.
They had a TV before anybody else in that area had a TV, and when the hit parade or wrestling or something come on, half of the neighborhood was in her living room watching that TV. And it was a big thing. I mean, you know, man, that was before ever went to movies, really.
Yeah. I think about her sometimes. I always had that Christmas tree, that silver, or she finally went to a white Christmas tree. I remember growing up as a boy, and I always had plenty of stuff to go there on Christmas and on New Year's sometimes, but it was always we go through as it makes a circle. Go to Billy's house. You always had to go to Billy's house.
Yeah.
And go there, and I think about Karen and Susan, think about Cheryl, I think about them. And you know, it's funny, the people in our life that touch us as we come along in it.
Yeah, she was a person that was very giving. She'd do people's taxes for them, not charge them a dime. I mean, you know, she's just that kind of person.
Yeah.
And
that was, you know, I think about that. Who else do you think, growing up, I mean, who do you think of that's touched your life that you can remember? Who are some of the people you can think?
Well, a lot of the people, you know, that I worked for in different businesses, I used to go down to H&B Grocery, which belonged to Pete Hash. Him and
I remember where that was.
I forget what that Elmer Brown was that man's name. They were in partners, and I'd hang around down there and ride the delivery truck, and he'd let me do little things, you know. And on Saturday he'd give me $1, and I was almost there from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, because that's the way all businesses were back then. They opened at 9 in the morning and they didn't close till 9 at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I stay right with them, you know. And
I remember that store. That's been, Lord, I forgot even where that building was located. Right up a road there, on the curve when you come across the bridge, when they're right there on the corner.
Yeah.
And Hash, I remember that.
See, that was actually old William Pokey's company store. And then when they closed out and quit mining, why, Hash and Brown bought it, and it was H&B Grocery.
Well,
so before that, there was another man that I remember pretty much. His name was Paul Moore. He owned it before they did, after the company closed it down. I go back a long ways, you know. I mean, I'm 76 years old, and
you think about those things going on.
I talked to a lot of the older men and everything in war, and about the history of war. And the first bank was a jail down there, and it was called Citizens Bank.
Well.
And you mentioned Bonnie a few minutes ago. Her dad had a bank account in that. She still had the passbook where he had entered his money. You know, they wrote it out for him, so he knew what he had in that bank.
Yeah.
And
growing up, what are some of the, you know, how long were you fire chief there at Warren?
I was assistant fire chief, and then I was fire chief for 13 years, and I actually started fighting fires back in the 50s when I started working town. I fought fires for 30 years and enjoyed every bit of it. I mean, it was a thrill to me to go and help, you know. And I was just a fireman for several years, and then I got to be assistant chief under Arthur Barnes.
I was going to ask you, I remember Arthur. I remember that. I don't remember that. I remember him.
Before him was James Johnson, and then there was Bob my first job was, when I worked at the service station, was to go blow the siren when they had a fire.
Huh.
I had a siren sitting on top of the jailhouse, and they kept the fire truck in the jail on one side, not in where the cells were or anything, and had a great big switch box on the wall, and you pulled the handle down to start that siren. I blow it 3 times, you know, and then Bob Brewster would come off of the hill, and I would finally I'd start the truck and have it sitting partway out on the street. When he got off the hill, all he had to do was jump in it and tell him where the fire was.
Yeah.
We had the fire phone in the service station, and
That's
the people called down there.
Know.
Yeah. And then eventually, the man I worked for there, Happy Barrett, his name was Wilmer, but they always called him Happy. He was fire chief. And Bert Edwards, the man that ran a funeral home there in the war, he was fire chief.
Mm-hmm.
And Nathan Hale, he was fire chief. Then it got, after I gave it up, they had the Stutzos, and then Bill Dishman. And now then my son Matthew is in that position.
Did you ever show you that picture back when you were fire chief then, when we were on the fire department, when I was, and Kenneth Wagner and a whole bunch of us? We had a picture that was cut out of the newspaper that we kept back from years ago. We set that back. That was but somewhere along in that journey there, Wesley Miller used to drive the fire truck sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I remember almost dying. I mean, on the back of that truck. I mean, that's back when you could stand on the back of the truck. I mean,
you could ride the tailboard then.
Lose a few people, but I mean, you could stand back there. I can remember my feet coming off the ground, going around War Mountain. And Wes, for some reason, everything he done, he always had to do 100 miles an hour.
Right.
I never understood that. It was just like he would go. I remember my feet coming off the ground, going around them curves, and him slinging that thing, and it was just like it was a. Now, Lord, they wouldn't let you even. I mean, you got to wear a seatbelt.
Me and Jim Stutzo started the English to a fire one Sunday, and we got to Forks Road at Yukon, and we didn't have the big old battery tied down in the truck, and we hit that intersection and blowed 2 tires out on that fire truck. And that battery scooted, it threw it out. It went completely across that intersection. I mean, I've had some experiences.
Yeah, I think about that. What are some things you found that were, and I guess you can use the word funny, but I mean that were funny that you run into being fire chief, some things that stand out in your mind that were a little bit out of the ordinary?
Well, one time we went to Whitaker Ridge, had a fire up there, because we were about the only fire department in that area up there. We covered a lot of territory. I had Coldwood, Coretta, Yukons, Buckhannon Dip, Warrior Mines, Excelsiors. Up the road I had plumb to the Virginia line on both sides. And a lot of territory. I went up Whitaker though, and took some of my help with me when I was working for the city. And this fire we went to, they must have had 10,000 rounds of ammunition. And it got to going off, and oh boy, I was around on the pump side running the pumps on the truck, and he come around there and he almost crawled up in my lap. He was afraid, But another time we were at, that happened 3 different times that I can recall real quick. We were up at Canebrake, and there's a group of men standing in the church door, and we were fighting a fire right straight across from it. And the ammunition began to go off, and there was a big bullet went off, and it went in right in the door facing right above those men. Now you talking about scattering.
Gee.
Now they moved, and then when the Western Auto burned downtown.
That's exactly what I was thinking about when you were talking about that. I remember that.
Yeah, that of course, they kept a big supply of ammunition, and that went off, and I think that really one of the officers was hit with.
That's why I remember somebody getting shot.
I believe the Stanford Guest, the black officer.
Mm-hmm. I remember that when Western Auto burned. I remember the ammunition in that.
Yeah. That old fire truck, we were trying to save our building, your dad, myself, and Dad, and I don't know who, I believe it was just the three of us up on that roof, but we were on that roof, and it was so cold and the wind blowing till our clothes froze stiff on us, but we were doing all we could do to keep it from burning our building. And but when we got down, you just about had to break your clothing off. It was terrible.
Now, how long did you work for the town? Of course, you retired working for the town. I mean, how many years were you working for the
26
town?
26 and a half years.
26 and a half years.
Yeah, I started February the 9th, 1972. When I signed on with them. I believe we got, seemed me like it was $172 a month.
Well, I mean, there's no sense in overpaying anybody.
No.
I mean, are they?
But I told them when I retired, I said, I came knowing a few things, but I left with a lot better education than I had when I went there.
Yeah.
And I learned diesel and hydraulics, and I rebuilt a fire truck for them and saved them $22,000.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed those things. Right. I didn't have a whole lot of education, but I could work with my hands, and my mind was good. I could figure out things.
Well, now, Dad always said, he made mention of this, he said that you were a little bit aggressive growing up as a young boy. He said that sometimes you would cause altercations that could have been prevented. He said, now that might be his story, you know what I mean, the way he's changing that around. He said growing up, he said you tended to cause altercations between you and other people that could have somewhat been prevented if you just hadn't have done it.
I was, young and thought it was my way or the highway, and that old temper could go from 0 to 360 before you could bat your eyes. And I'd hit a man, and I got hit too, but I guess I did cause, problems that shouldn't have never happened.
Yeah, he said, sometimes y'all get in some trouble. He said it sort of said somehow it was.
Yeah.
But I mean, that can happen.
Yeah, it's all part of growing up.
Thank the Lord we lived through it.
Yeah.
Because it's just a short span, and now people get killed so quick. I'm telling you.
Well, they shoot you down. I think they watch so many of these old movies and stuff, and people are shot and die, and then in the next series, here they are again, and they don't really believe in death. They think, that's just a farce, but it's not. It's when you're dead, you're dead. That's it.
Yeah. Well, when you think about Papa, I mean, what do you think growing up? What are some things that stand out in your mind? Just some memories that you think about Papa working and being there and farming, and as you shared, working in the mines, and what are some things that stand out in your mind?
I learned a lot from him. I mean, he had his way, and when he and Eddie and myself were all in business together, you had to do things his way, and I'd say, Dad, maybe this would be an easier way to do this. He said, no, that's not the way to do it. It's my way. And we never did fall out or nothing over it. But Dad, he was a man that could figure out things, you know, and he was always trying to invent something himself, you know. I've seen several of his little items that he did make, you know, and it was always a pleasure to be with Dad, you know. When I was growing up, a whole lot of the time, he worked in the mines and on the evening shift, and he'd come in and maybe rest a few hours then and get up about 9 o'clock, and him and Granddad had a little old mine, and they would work in it till about time for him to go again. And then in summertime, when it was time to farm, we always grew a lot of vegetables, and he had us, you know, clearing new ground, building fences and piling rocks. We always had chores to do. Every one of us boys had some chore to do every day. And
it's funny how life and things that stand out in your mind that I think about those things, you know, and that's like what I think
about. He caught me one time. I was hauling brick to make a chimney with at a house he'd built for my aunt, and he's using an old flat bottom sled and a horse, you know, the sled, and I slid these bricks uphill, and I wanted to hurry and get done and go do something else, you know, and he stepped out behind a tree and he said, "Hey boy, don't you like to rest when you're tired?" I said, "Yes sir, I do." He said, "You let my horse rest when he's tired. You quit hitting him with something and making him go on," you know.
Yeah.
But oh boy, you know, I was just interested in getting it done.
Yeah.
I knew I had to do it, but I wanted to do it quick as I could and go do what I wanted to do,
right.
You know. But he never would let us mistreat nothing, and Dad was very tender-hearted. He used to tell us, you know, when they'd have to whip us a little bit, he'd say, "Boys, it hurts me worse than it does you," and I thought, that's the biggest lie you ever told.
It's something, the stuff I remember, and we'll share some more in a little bit, but thinking about how they just touched a lot of things that he said to me, you know, as we go along with me, and things that just touch you, and you hold on to those things.
Yeah.
And remember those things that really make a difference. I think there's so many people in our life, too, that sometimes we, you know, I think it's important to remember people touched us as we come through. And some of them are family, some of them are friends, some of them people we just met that really touches when we think. And like you said, people you work for.
My kids always wanted